All right, we are back with a vengeance. Florida Hockey Bros. My name is David. I'm joined by my brother. Um, we've been gone for a while, as maybe one or two of you have noticed, and we are back. I was moving and got a baby on the way pretty soon. My brother was in Spain vacationing. A lot has happened, Daryl. I think we both watched that. Well, you didn't watch Game 7, right? Because you were in Spain, but I watched
No, I
bits and
watched the
pieces.
ending. I woke up in the middle of the night to watch
Oh,
the
okay,
ending.
okay. Yeah, same as well. Like I watched it with Marcel, my wife, and but it was bits and pieces, and then I watched like the last like 7 minutes basically because I was a nervous wreck. But we'll get into the Panthers in the second half of the video. If you're a Panthers fan, I think we're gonna start with Maple Leafs and just a little bit of what's happened around the league. A lot of movement. July 1st was just chaotic. So we'll get a little bit into all of that. But yeah, let's start with the Leafs. It's always an interesting topic to us, right? And I know like we get labeled like Leafs haters, but it's just a fascination, I think, more than anything. So yeah, let's start us off. Like, where do you
No,
want to
bro,
start
we
with
Leafs
Leafs?
haters. We Leafs haters because they're the Leafs and we're Panthers fans. Of course, we're gonna hate. But it's fun to listen to haters.
Yeah, and there's so much content with Toronto. Like we mentioned this a million times before, but like it's just easy. Like we can do like hours of just Leafs. We could be a Leafs
Drama, bro.
podcast.
It's like a telenovela, bro. It's hilarious.
But yeah, we can get started with that. So much for the whole Marner thing. It doesn't look like anything's happening there, but yeah, where do you want to go, and we'll go from there.
All right, this is a quick stray, and nobody's gonna listen to this, but I just want to say to Oilers fans because they were following some of the videos that we posted during the finals, and they were commenting on our videos. If you happen to still be around for whatever crazy reason, I've seen your comments after the Panthers won the cup. Bro, you are the worst Canadian fans I've ever seen by far. Like worse than Toronto fans. Holy shit, you guys are so annoying. You think you own hockey. You think hockey should only be played in a frozen pond. Like you make fun of the Panthers, even though no respect, no credit, nothing for the Panthers. So you know what? Fuck you and your team. I hope my David never wins. I wanted him to maybe get a cup before this. I wouldn't have been mad if he won. Now I'm actively rooting against you and your team. I know you think you got deeper. It's a mirage. You're over the cap. You got to let some people go. Your team's been swept out of the playoffs. You were lucky to get through Vancouver. Panthers could have beat you in less than 7. They just, a team that didn't have that level of talent to do that. But the West isn't going to be easy for you guys. You still got to go through a bunch of other teams. You got lucky you didn't have to face Vegas. You got lucky you didn't have to face some people. So anyway, I'm just going to say, now that you were such haters and you think that hockey should not be played in South Florida and that like the parade was whatever bad, even though it would look great, I got news for you. Our players, they're not from Florida, bro. Our players are from Europe and Canada and the US, just the same as your damn players. Like they're the same hockey team. And just because you guys don't know how to run a team and you guys can win with the best player, 9 seasons with the best player in the league, you can't fucking even get to one final until now. That's embarrassing. The fact that Cito came in and we won the President's Trophy 2 straight finals. Respect, bro. Respect.
Yeah, the lack of respect is really weird, right? Because like the fan base is just, if anything, we're a little
You own
ignorant.
Kachuk in Calgary. You couldn't beat them this time. Like, get out of here, bro. No, they're just haters. I'm done with it. They're
They
the
are
worst.
haters, but
They're
the whole
worst.
league,
They
the whole
worst haters.
league is just.
Even the Leafs gave the Panthers credit when they lost against the Panthers, bro. Like last year, like for real. Like it's they can be passive aggressive, whatever. The Oilers fans are straight up nasty. Like straight up, like don't want to go. And I know I'm generalizing. I know it's not all of you, whatever. But listen, you gotta check your own people. Check your own people, bro, because they're terrible. Freaking, and I'm talking about the pundits. They definitely give the Panthers the flowers. A lot of people in the NHL over, in the league. I saw a lot of respect for Barkov, a lot of respect for Maurice. People love Maurice. So I just want to say that, like, I really love seeing the coverage of the Panthers outside of Edmonton. Like, mad respect for the Panthers. But that's what you do, bro. Show respect. These guys are like serious players. They earned it. Back to back finals. Not easy to do. We're not loaded with superstars. We don't have McDavid. We have Draisaitl. We just have hardworking guys who play 2 ways. And yeah, it was hard, and you guys made a comeback or whatever. You should have. McDavid didn't scored a point in the last 2 games, bro. Get out of here. Get out of here. Spend $30 million on him and Draisaitl. Give Bouchard $10 million. Good luck with that shit. Good luck with your team winning. And that's all I got to say about Oilers fans. It's annoying me, bro. The comments are just so awful. Like, anyway, it's just terrible, bro. So petty. You're like a college town, bro. You're a college town. You're envious of South Florida. We don't even take hockey seriously, and we win. It's your entire life, and you can freaking win with the best player ever.
Yeah, the Canada hockey thing is starting to get bizarre. Same with like the state tax thing, and that's a whole another show and stuff. But it's getting out of hand with the whole state tax thing and all that stuff. Yeah, it matters. It definitely pulls in some players, but you also have to have a winning culture. And whatever. Let's not get into that now.
Bro, they treat the stars like they're babies. They don't want to lose them. They overpay them, not because of tax. It's because you don't know how to be like Cito, who's a badass and got Reinhardt to sign for 8.6. Like, get out of here, bro. Like, Cito was willing to lose Reinhardt. You know what I'm saying? He knows he can replace that because he's a badass GM. Your GMs don't know how to build a team. Your GMs overpay for your players. And they know they can count on your fan base to follow the team whether you win or lose. That's the problem with y'all. Because you're so obsessed with the hockey. And you don't hold your team accountable. You show up either way. You're fanboys. McDavid can do no wrong. No points in the last 2 games in a final. After 9 seasons, he's not a rookie. He's a vet by now. Hold him accountable. Call him out. Call Draisaitl out. He was crap.
Draisaitl was awful.
He was awful in the final.
Terrible.
He looked like he couldn't even skate. Oh, they're injured. What is he? Would he get off-season surgery like Kachuk did, like Eblat did, like Monter did? I don't see nobody getting, everybody was Matthews in Toronto. Like, he had a tummy ache, he had a headache. These guys didn't have anything. Ekblad had like 4 different injuries. He was out for like 6 months. Like Monter was out with a shoulder injury for months. Kachuk he didn't even look right the first half of the season. Like, those guys have real injuries. Like, get out of here, bro. Anyway, I'm tired of the Oilers fans. I'm done with y'all. I hope you don't get to the finals again. I hope you cry like babies. I'm actively rooting against you. And don't come to South Florida. Don't come to South Florida.
It's funny.
Stay in Edmonton. It's beautiful up there.
It's funny because like
I can freeze your ass for 10 months out of the year.
I think like the funny thing about that is the Panthers beat them, so I don't care. Like it hasn't bothered me. Like whenever I see stupid comments trying to excuse their shit or whatever, or Knoblauch saying that if they have 5 more minutes or whatever, stupid shit.
He's the most passive-aggressive douche. Knoblauch, what have you earned? You're lucky to be there because the stars are carrying you. All you did was change the lineups every other night, like every other coach who can't be Maurice. Like you need to have confidence in your people. Like loading up the first line. Like Knoblauch talking. That guy's not gonna get back to the finals. Like
the last 2 minutes in Game 7, they couldn't skate. They didn't even pull the freaking the name. I forgot the name. They couldn't pull the goalie. Yeah, Skinner. Like they went into like a minute 20, dude. Crazy shit, man. They couldn't.
We took everything out of them, bro. Good luck getting into the finals. I'm telling you. You think you're gonna be easy? Wait until you have to play a deeper Dallas or a more experienced Dallas or Vegas or Colorado.
Nah, I think in today's NHL, you need 3 lines. You need 3 lines that can not score. Like I think that's like my biggest pet peeve with the league and fans and everybody. It's like scorers, right? Like it's like Bedard. Why is Crosby great? It's not because of just the scoring. Like it's what he provides to the line that he's in. All that shit matters, but whatever. All these kids coming up nowadays are just little scorers. And
I would love what Paul Maurice said, and I have to say this about McDavid and Draisaitl. I just gotta say this. I'm McDavid. All the talent in the world. All right, tons of assists. Whatever. He is a guy who may not win precisely because of the way he plays. His defense, it's bad. You think he's good? He's not. His defense
is not good. You know who's better than McDavid on defense? Matthews.
Oh, way better. Yes. Like Matthews is a legit 2-way player. Way better. Freaking Marner is better on defense. Like McDavid is not good on defense, and you never want to hold him accountable, call him out on that. And the other thing is, with all his talent, he's reckless out there. He misses a lot of chances. He passes off good opportunities to score.
He passes a lot.
Yeah. And again, it's fair to criticize a guy with his level of talent. He's not Sidney Crosby. He's not a natural winner. like just straight up. He's not those guys. He does he's a leader, whatever. He says that he's the most boring dude. He says the thing, he waited to check everybody's hand. He better. I mean, what do you mean? He's the captain. Like what?
All the captains do that like every game.
Yeah, like you're making it sound like Gudas did that. Rako Gudas did that when he was here. Like, get out of here, bro. Anyway, like I'm just tired. Like they think they know. They don't know. They only watch their own team. They don't even watch the rest of the league. They don't know what hockey looks like. It's all like adoration for this one player or this guy or whatever. My ass is the team sport, bro. You don't know how to win. Your defense trash. Whatever. Like it's. You got this far because you got through a lethargic Vancouver team. Dallas pooped the bed at the end. It's not you fully earned it. It's not you look great. You got dominated in some of the games. And yeah, you pushed the game 7 after being down 3-0 against a team that didn't have the stars that you have. And 4 out of the 7 games, you couldn't get shit done. Couldn't get it. The defense beat you. A defensive team beat you. That's what we did. So anyway, that's all I got to say. And if you're going to talk crap and make fun of Florida, whatever, disrespect the league, disrespect the sport that you claim to love, you're just showing your ass. So I got no respect for you. I think you're worse than any other fan base I've seen out of Canada. I'm a root for Calgary now, bro. just out of spite.
All right.
Anyway, bro, I've been holding on to that for like 2 weeks, bro. I've seen the comments.
No, it's
trash, bro.
It's very irritating. It's very irritating because it's just a respect thing. Like you can say like, oh, this player's whatever and that, and like I hate your team and your fan base is stupid and you guys don't care about hockey. That has nothing to do with anything. Like we don't live in Florida. Well, I don't anymore. I used to. We both did, of course, and that's how we became fans. But that has nothing to do with anything. It's a sport. It's a team that you support. And I mean, the Panthers earned the shit out of that Stanley Cup. Like they earned the shit out of it. So for the fans and like the whole congratulation things on the draft where like no team congratulated the Panthers. Supposedly they were told not to waste time, which is bullshit because it's like congratulations to the Florida Panthers on the Stanley Cup win and with the first pick of the draft, blah, blah, blah. It's not that hard, They do it every year, but this year no one did it, which is kind of telling, right? A bunch of haters, bro. But anyway.
Yeah, we'll get to the Panthers in the second half. For the haters about the Panthers, stick around for the second half when we talk about the Panthers because I got some news for you about the Florida Panthers. We ain't going nowhere. Bro, for real. Let's talk Leafs, bro.
Ain't going nowhere.
Ain't going nowhere, bro.
All right, let's get into the Leafs. All right. Yeah, let's start with wherever you want to start, but yeah, what the pundits are already complaining that the team has not improved at all after that press conference that they had.
Bro, it's just so funny. Like, I feel bad. I mean, honestly, at some point, I actually feel bad for some of the fans. Like, and it was kind of predictable. But here's what I'm gonna say. Chris Johnson said it in the Steve Dangle show last week. Like, the reason why Canadian teams in general and also Toronto like haven't won in a long time, in large part, is because they don't need to. I mean, that's the bottom line. The ownership knows that. We've talked about that before. I'm not going to talk about that again. And Toronto fans know that. Like, the arena fails no matter what, and fans support the team. And I get it. I get it. And they have, and I feel bad for them because of the powerlessness. Like they still are not willing to piss off their stars to bring a GM that has, or support the GM. It isn't just the GM's call. I mean, let's be real. Cito can act the way he acts in other GMs because their owners support what they do. You could trade Huberdeau. All of a sudden, come in your second year as a GM, you're like, you know what, franchise player, trading his ass. You need to have ownership support to be able to do that. But those teams don't seem to have that for whatever reason. There's a lot of fear of losing fans or pissing off, I guess, fans because you lose the stars. I know it's hard to replace them. I also have to be real. Like, a lot of players don't want to go to Canada. People think it's just a tax thing, but I don't think it's just tax. I think a lot of it's a combination of weather, tax, and the pressure. And nobody wants, the hockey players in general, they don't want to be like public figures. And yeah, you can say like, oh, whatever, it takes a certain kind of player to come here, forget the rest. But that really limits your pool, and, what was it, the Skinner that didn't want to go there? I think it was, what's his name, Jeff Skinner or whatever.
Yeah.
Riker Gudas last year, you heard, didn't want to go there.
Yeah, O'Reilly wanted to
O'Reilly, then, OEL is the guy that they ended up with because he probably was not a plan A, but, so to me, I think all of those things combined, you at the end of the day need to just build a team. You need to move away from this thing. And I guess they're going to give it another year and then let Tavares come off the books or maybe give him a small contract. But the funny thing for me is at the end of the day with Trey Living is I'm starting to see, and maybe I'm wrong. I mean, you got to give him time. I'm starting to see signs in Trey Living of a guy who's not very creative. I don't see the creativity that you see from Cito or even the boldness that you see out of Tampa, which I don't think made the right moves, but at least it's bold. Nashville, with Barry Trotz coming in and going big. Vegas, et cetera, et cetera. And again, it doesn't always work, but you have to be able to act quickly. Look at Carolina. Carolina lost a lot of players, but they got Gostisbehere, they got Sean Walker. They're thinking about trading Natchez for Ehlers. Like, you got to do something, bro, and they're not willing to overpay for Marty Natchez, like you just got to be that kind of a, sometimes you got to hold strong. And Cito, hey, Montour, best of luck to you, bro, but we're not going to give you 50 mil. Like, you're 30 years old and you're a liability on defense. Can't afford to do that. Forsling was the right move. Reinhardt is the right guy for that price. So at the end of the day, you have to be willing to lose people. We're probably going to lose one of Bennett or Verhaeghe. We need to just live with that. We cannot afford both. We'll probably keep one of them. And that's okay. Cito's got to prepare for that. And these guys were integral in us winning. But you got to, part of your job as a GM is to know who the next wave is, either in free agency or a prospect or whatever. So you just have to be able to have a plan and really go for it. And also how to fill the team in the margins in smarter ways. To me, the Tanev thing, that can really backfire because it's such an obsessive signing. It's like, I know this guy, I know he's great. And yes, the numbers show that he's a strong defenseman, but injury prone, 35 years old, long-term contract, and he isn't going to be the only solution. He's going to be put under strain by, Riley, who always goes on offense. And OEL, bit of an overpay in terms of, I think, salary and years. OEL is a solid guy, but definitely a third pairing guy at this point in his career. He can come in and run your power play for a bit, but if he's going to run your power play the entire year, probably not going to work. If he has to play top 4 minutes, probably not going to work. With the Panthers, he had to be sheltered a bit, could be a liability on defense at times, and so a good player, I don't hate the signing. I think too many years, but to me, Tanev and him are older guys. I don't know that they were the right kind of guys. I think they should have taken a swing with Pesce or Montour. Maybe they were not options. Maybe they didn't want to go there. Maybe they didn't want to pay the $7 million. But you're giving Liljegren $3 million, bro, because you don't want to go to arbitration or lose him. Lose his ass, bro. That $3 million you added to whatever you gave OEL, that's Montour's salary. More than Montour's salary. That's Pesce. Why not go after Gostisbehere and Sean Walker combined for $7 million? Like, those guys have you some puck handling depth, some offense, bit of defense. Again, I'm not saying those guys would have signed there, but this obsession with Tanev at that price, like he's the, I don't know, like maybe I just don't understand that, but like he's an older guy who's not going to be able to give you over 20 minutes all the time without getting injured and doesn't give you a ton of offense. And yeah, I know he has value, but like you got to think long term too. You got a 4-year window here, so he might give you a year or two, but I just don't get it. I just don't get the obsession with certain names and certain people. And I just don't see boldness from Tree Living, in my opinion. I didn't see creativity. Holding on to Liljegren makes no sense to me. And the $3 million is an overpay. Who's going to take him for that money? You're going to have to really get creative with a trade. The drama with Nick Robertson, like I just don't. I don't see the vision, man. And I don't. And I think that you gave all these people like no trade clauses, and now I know Tree Living inherited some of that. But they should have traded somebody last year, Nylander or Marner. They should have the balls to do that. And now they're kind of stuck. And to be honest with you, with Marner, if you really wanted to trade him, there are ways. There are ways, bro. There are ways to make it nasty. There are ways to go to him and say, we don't want you. There are ways to say, we need to move you. And I know you don't want to give an impression for future stars that that's your treatment. But, like, you need the money to come off, You need to find a way. You need to find a way to move those contracts. And or genuinely hold them accountable. You know what I'm saying? Have the 4 guys really show like, you know, that they want to win, and if not, like, demote them and bench them and do that kind of stuff. And so right now they're in between. They think that the coach is going to be a solution. I just don't buy it. I think he's a bit overrated as a coach. He had that 1 year, but I don't think he has much of a track record outside of that. And I just feel bad. I think it's going to be another wasted year for them. I just don't see them winning. I've seen what it takes for the Panthers to win. I've seen other teams what it's taken to win and to get to the finals. I don't see that in the least, bro.
No, it's grueling. Basically, like that series that they had with Boston in the first round, they'll have to do that like 4 times in the playoffs. They'll have to basically play responsible and physical and kind of keep it going that way. And that takes a lot out of you and your stars, and your top line is going against another top line every time you play. And it's not that easy, man. It's why Barkov has gotten such recognition and all that stuff, because that's really like a big part of your job is to hold down, you know, to hold back the other line. And I just don't see a line with Matthews doing that. Like, I know he can score. I know he can defend. He's great at takeaways and all that kind of stuff, but I don't see it. It almost feels like they got a new coach. To me, like, it feels weird if I'm a Leafs fan, because I'm like, okay, so what you guys are basically saying is it was just the coach and only the coach, because there's nothing that you've brought on. OEL and Tanev are not going to make a huge difference to the blue line. One great defender is not going to change your team or your way of thinking. I don't care how much of a leader he is in the locker room. Those guys that are there, Matthews, Marner, Willie, they don't give a shit what you say. They know that they run that city. They love the attention and the fame. So to me, I agree. I agree with you on Treliving. I think he's a very basic GM. Very, 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 very basic GM. That's just going to make the obvious moves like he did with Tanev by not giving up a pick at the deadline, but getting him now for free or whatever. So I don't see, I think, you know, when Dubas left, they had to pivot, and that's fine. And they should have just gotten Treliving for like 1 year and be like, hey, look, just come in for this 1 or 2 years, kind of keep it going, and we'll go from there. But I just think it's funny that they don't, you know, they're not taking advantage of the fact that you're kind of in a transition, and that's the right time to just make all the moves that you need to make and just approach Tavares, approach Marner, and be like, look, we need the money to load up on defense. We need to, whatever, better goaltending, whatever you want to say. And we're just not going to extend you. How do you feel about this or that? And what if we trade you here or there? And what are the deals that we can get for you, etc. And if they say no, okay, you tell them, okay, no problem. We'll play this year, and then you'll be like, oh.
But then you put it in, then you find ways to get that public, right? And say the team really wants to make these changes. The team is committed to really going for it and moving it, but the players refuse to cooperate, right? Some sort of way of doing that to the press, and put the pressure on the players to both perform or put up and, you know, or put up or shut up, right? Or perform or agree to a trade. But none of that has come out. Like the reports are that they haven't really even approached Marner's camp. And so, you know, I know, there's no trade out there to be had or whatever. And yeah, that's part of your fault, overpaying the guy and, you know, going to free agency.
I don't know about that. I'm sure a couple teams will take him.
But they just don't want to trade him. I mean, that's the whole point. He's most likely going to get extended, because then they're going to wait for Tavares, which is a lot easier to get rid of. But at the end of the day, I don't buy that Nylander is like a playoff performer. I'm scared of him. Having seen the Panthers grow and develop and play stronger this year and be deeper than they were last year, bro, bring on the Leafs anytime. And I feel like a lot of teams are going to feel that way. Like, you know, McDavid and Draisaitl needed 7 games against Vancouver. They needed 6 games at Dallas, and they got owned in that 6 game that they won. They got beat by Vegas. They've gotten swept by Colorado, gotten swept by the Jets. Like, it's hard. It's hard. Really, really hard. The Panthers needed a lot of things to also go their way in order to win. So I don't think people realize that these guys have to be willing to sacrifice to play hard, to develop a system, to give up points on offense, to defend more, not just rely on the people around them. And so to me, that's the issue, is that I just don't see that mentality, even in what they say. I don't see the attitude. And I don't see the coaches really pushing for a system that says, yo, this is what it is. You know what? Barkov came back in better shape this season, and Reinhardt, in part because the coaches pushed for that. The coaches said, this is the style, this is the training camp, this is the expectation. There's no way around it, bro. Like, you're going to have to play this way to win. And Barkov needed to be stronger in order to, because Barkov was known in the playoffs for like being a bit soft. And so, all of a sudden Barkov's dominating people physically and going to the front of the net. And what I'm saying? Like, so that it's not a vacuum. He just didn't wake up one day and said, oh, I'm going to all of a sudden become this guy. Like, he's pushed to become that. And so, yeah, man, I just don't, we'll get to the Panthers later. But I look at other teams and I see the creativity and the boldness, and I'm just like, sometimes you take a swing, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Vegas took it with Eichel and it worked out. You know what I'm saying? Like, people forget Eichel didn't have the best reputation coming out of Buffalo. Like, Montour was known as the worst defenseman in the league when the Panthers got him.
Yeah, Reinhardt was considered a failure because he was expected to be a leader, and Bennett was in the fourth line in Calgary. Like,
as a top 5 pick.
Yeah, it's how you approach.
Verhaeghe was a journeyman in the fourth line in Tampa.
Verhaeghe was never given a chance, because I think I almost feel like a lot of those teams just kind of scout like the same way. Like, there's something that kind of connects all these guys in the Panthers. Bennett, Verhaeghe, Reinhardt, and Bennett's a good skater, but neither is really like a playmaker, or flashy, or can skate really well. Bennett does. But they don't play that way. They don't showcase it as much as like some of these young guys, like I said. So it's kind of funny to see that, like, the way that some teams approach their free agency or the draft or just the overall projection, like the steps that they need to take. And I think for Toronto, I don't know if it's Shanahan or if it's just like, it almost feels like this is a great comparison for those that watch soccer. Like, if you watch Barcelona and everything that's happened with them, take the financials aside, like the way, for a team to have so much attention, so much money, etc., and have such incompetence, it kind of ruins it. And that's how I feel about the Leafs. I just feel like they really need, from the top down, president, GM, they need solid people there that are not just smart, but that have a vision and know how to build it and how to get there. Because now they're in limbo. They have to go for it because you only have Matthews for 3 more years or 5 more years. And you just resign Nylander, and you might extend Marner. Wool is going to be there for a little while longer. You're going to have to extend Matthew Nice. So, there's all these things that you're going to have to do. And if you're paying guys an extra 1 or 2 or 3 million a year just because of the tax thing, which is not what it is, because I agree with you. Like, Nylander, they should have gone to him and be like, look, you're a $9 million player. Even if you produce 100 points every year, you're about $9 million. Taxes or no taxes, it doesn't make a difference. Take it or leave it. And if it says leave it, then great. You can use that.
Bro, take him to free agency, and if the Sharks want to give him 12, then let him go to the Sharks. Then he was never a serious player. If he just wants the money to go to the Sharks, take him to free agency, see what other deals.
To me, that contract is so weird. Like a full no trade clause. It's, to me,
they got owned by a guy who is a flashy player.
They say he shows up in the playoffs. Like, you're talking about a guy that scores just because he scores. Like, he'll score here and there, and then the rest of the game he'll disappear. That guy does not forecheck, back check,
let's
anybody.
This whole thing about showing up in the playoffs, let's be real. Showing up in the playoffs is what Matthew Tkachuk did last year. 4 overtime wins, leading the team in points throughout, take you to a final, a team that had no business being in the final, put it on his back against Carolina, against everybody, broke his freaking chest literally trying to hit people and getting hit in the finals, and try to play through it. That is a playoff performer. Even this year, he was quiet, but he was playing hard. But that you look at a guy like that, and I know in the future he might give you another year like that. That's a playoff performer. Barkov this season took over the playoffs. That is a playoff performer, right? And of course, there's a bunch of examples Marchessault with Vegas, taking over Eichel and Stone and all these guys, and Pietrangelo.
Right.
You see these guys show up in the playoffs. You can call him, but even Draisaitl before this year, playoff performer. You can't say that about a guy who can't get out of the first round, and just because he scored one goal against the Panthers to win a game, or one, or to tie a game or whatever, and scored over here and over there. Like the standards are so low that just because he scores a key goal here or there, and Marner doesn't, you think he's like a performer. And I'll end with this about the Leafs, because we'll see what happens. But I think they're running it back, obviously, and this is going to be the team. And I don't know that they're better. I think the forward court is really terrible right now, and they really need to hope that Nyes and McMahon and these guys take a step. And then in that it works out with Domi, but they're going to miss Bertuzzi, and then they're hoping that Easton Cowan and these kids come in all of a sudden, setting the world on fire. I'll say this: you know what you need? You just need Tanev to come in magically. You need Riley, who gets paid $7.5 million, to play two-way freaking hockey in the playoffs and not disappear against the Boston Bruins, and not play like a forward, not treat the puck like a hot potato, and leave Liljegren sometimes, or whoever's with him, back there taking grenades while he's like trying to run forward like a forward in the playoffs. Imagine playing like that in the regular season, whatever.
Well, his defensive metrics are terrible.
He's awful on defense, and Brody was hiding him, but the minute Brody's play went down, he got exposed. Like, he cannot, for $7.5. It's what we didn't keep Montour. We don't want to give that guy $7 million a year because he kind of plays like that, to be honest. He had to be sheltered a bit in the Panthers, in that great defensive system. But he's a bit of a liability. It's why Cito took him out of the power play, and why he had a couple of really bad pizzas in the final. Like, he got demoted, So, and last year he was really good in the playoffs. So, he can give you that kind of play. And Riley has that in him, but he's got to be better, bro, both ways. He's got to be like Ekblad. Look at Ekblad's game. Went from full-on offense, no defense, to like shutting down McDavid a couple of games in the finals. Like, you have to be able to demand that. And it isn't just Tanev coming in. He has to do that. All the guys in the team, all the defensemen in the team have to do that. Liljegren, play defense, bro. Play defense. Like, you need to be able to play defense. Like, yeah, you can score, you can skate. You got to be able to hit people. Look at Forsling. Forsling can score. Forsling can go forward, but he's an elite defender. You have to be able to like sacrifice. It's not all about the offense. It's not about getting cookies and scoring heart tricks, which is all they seem to care about. And it's like, well, every time that you care about that, you're not going to win, bro. You're not going to win. McDavid will score a lot more goals than he could. Barkov could put 100 points, and they don't. Bergeron could have had 100 points a season, and he never did, because they're trying to win, bro. So to me, that's what you need. You need a culture change. You need your top guys to be the actual leaders, to sacrifice, to put up fewer points, and then the other guys will come along and really try and get locker room guys, and get, Cito prioritizes locker room guys a lot. Guys who are willing to sacrifice, who are willing to come in, no drama, Lumber, Cousins, all these guys, Oposo, take him in, take him out, whatever. They don't care, man. They're there to try, they're there to win, they're there to sacrifice. Yeah, man, it's just it's a whole thing. The problems are many, and yeah, I just think until they have a cultural shift and they have more cap and they have a deeper team and they're actually willing to demand more of their top guys, it was Tkachuk and Barkov at the end of the day leading the way for the Panthers the last 2 seasons, and that's what got everybody else on board. So,
yeah. And you have an advantage that you have guys that are gonna back check and forecheck and not just be physical, because Barkov's not super physical. He can be, but just dominant on the defensive zone. And that by itself gives you a great advantage. And I feel like with Nylander and Marner, you're just not going to get that come playoff times. I think it's easy to kind of take him out the game with a couple hits. Matthews is a big guy. So it's a little different to kind of take him out. But I think that they're just at a disadvantage, and this is year one. This is year one of their culture shift with Berube. So we'll see. And I agree with you on Berube, man. I think, yeah, he won in 2019, but if you look at that team was awful during the year, and it was just pure defense. And then Bennington came in and was just super hot.
They grinded it out, and they have Bennington go on a hot streak, and they have Riley, Pietrangelo, and Perron, who are all leaders, like legit leaders on that team. So that also gets overlooked a lot. Pietrangelo is a 2-time champ now. O'Reilly won a championship and trying to do stuff in Nashville now. Perron has always been a physical guy, leader guy. So he had a good locker room. He had a good team at the end of the day. But if you look at the last few years in St. Louis, were not great, and some of the guys were pouting. And in Philly, he was pretty mid. So, again, I'm not saying the guy's not a good coach, but it can get overblown that he might be a culture changer. I'll be intrigued to see what his systems are, how he runs a team, and whether there becomes drama between him and some other players. But anyway, it's just drama. It's hilarious how all this talk of Marner, nothing happens. The press conference, nothing happens. What's his name? Pelly, whatever that guy is. I got news for y'all. Pelly, one, knows nothing about hockey. He doesn't. And doesn't care. He has like 10 different teams to take care of. He works for the big higher-ups. He's a big CEO. His job is to make money. This is where you need to listen to David Sampson. Leafs fans, you want to learn about business, sports business? Go listen to Sampson's podcast, David Sampson's podcast. He's the most like wretched human being, but he tells you one thing. He teaches you one thing, which is people like Keith Pelly, people like that, they don't care about the Leafs winning. They care about revenue, bottom line, and numbers. That's just what it is. And that's okay. That's their job. What you need is an infrastructure that allows your GM and your president, is Shanahan, and these guys who have to push and convince the higher-ups, we got to trade Marner. We got to move away. We don't sign that contract. Yeah, we're going to lose in the short term, but we're going to win in the long term. And you don't have that. And he isn't going to be the savior. He's not going to come in and just fire everybody. He's not going to come in and make all those changes. He doesn't know what he's doing. So anyway, like I just think that people thought that because Pelly was coming in and maybe, there'll be bigger changes or whatever. And I have to say, I listened to Brad Treliving talk in the interviews and talk about the team. And I'm not impressed, bro. I'm sorry. I'm just not. I just don't see the strong personality there, the clear vision. I'm just not inspired by, and I don't see the creativity in the moves to show like, wow, this guy's like a genius.
No, because you're right about, if you combine like Liljegren, OEL, and Tanev, and you take that money.
He just got had by those three guys. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like based on the years and the contracts, if you think of the teams would have paid more.
Tanev Tanev's agent or the camp knew that the Leafs really wanted him, and
they had no leverage.
Took advantage because like 6 years, is it? Like he'll be 41. The fuck?
Just to keep the AAV down.
What the fuck? Yeah, because you have to maneuver all these things. You have to do all these things but I don't understand that. Like you had the opportunity last year for living there with Nylander. You could have been like, hey, this is our number, and that's our number going forward. If that player leaves, like you said, you know that they're just after the money only. But yeah,
and also like this is the part of the creativity that I'm talking about. Let's say that you OEL, like let's say that he has a limited number of people who want to go to Toronto for a certain number, and that for OEL he had to give the 4 years in order to get him for that money, because otherwise other teams would have given him more or he wouldn't go there. That's where you have to get creative and find the Mikolas, find the Kulikovs, find, maybe instead of $1 million, it's $2 million you got to give them. You got to give them twice the money to get them to go to Toronto. But fill out your roster with some vets. Fill out your roster with some guys that can do that and demand more of your top end guys, or radically go after one big name and then have some role players in the back and some younger guys and demand more of them. People say, oh, Liljegren always gets benched. No one seems to have taught this guy how to defend. Like your coaching staff has to work with him and develop him into a defender. Forsling did not play it at this level the first year he came to the Panthers. He was good, but he developed over the last 2 years into this elite defender. You know what I'm saying? Ekblad learned how to defend over the last couple of years much better. He's still got flaws and all that, but he's definitely defending better than he's ever had because he was not a good defender at all in the past. So it can be taught. A system can be taught. Players can improve, and you can see it. And Reinhardt playing two-way hockey and all that. So yeah, man, it's just a mess, and it's kind of hilarious from the outside because of all this talk and all this passion and the stuff. And at the end of the day, it's like they're gonna run it back. They're already convincing the press to soften the conversation. Yeah, I already see TSN and all those guys like, oh, maybe Marner does take a step. Maybe the coach does get them to play differently. Maybe Tanev can get Riley to play better. They're already softening the conversation of like, let's wait. And of course, they're going to have a strong start to the season, and the guys are going to put up points, and everybody's going to get on board. And the playoffs come, and reality freaking hits.
Well, and we don't even know, like, something else you learn watching your team throughout the years. It's so unexpected. Like when you have a good team, it's kind of like they're gonna make the playoffs, right? Because they have the talent to do so. But I don't know how much Berube is gonna be able to change. Like, is he just gonna change the systems to where Riley has to stay back? I would assume so. I would assume the 6 defenders are gonna have to defend first and foremost, but we'll see, man. Like it's that's gonna be fun.
Yeah. Well, let's shift to the Panthers, but I'll say this: 2 years ago, the Leafs were top 5 team in the league on defense, and they still couldn't get past the second round. And they got
when they lost to the Panthers in the first round, they were top 5 in defense, top 5 in offense, specialty. Like it was everything. They were like an excellent team,
and they had some depth. And so it's the culture, man. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
All right, let's get into the Panthers. For the Panthers win the cup. So you guys know we're Panther fans, so very, very happy to see that happen finally. It's more of a relief than anything. You don't have to take shit from anybody when they talk shit.
Oh my God, bro!
When they talk shit now, you can be like, "Well, you don't have a cup.
You just need the cup. You just need the cup, and now you got the 2 finals."
Yeah, it opens the door to you can either transition and like whatever, or like Cito's doing. He's trying to run it back for at least one more year. Maybe more if he gets Verhaeghe or Bennett. Depends on who wants to stay and how the kids work out. That's a big unknown right there, right? So, but yeah, I think they did a good job July 1st and just making a couple moves. So I think it was pretty obvious that Montour was going to go. It was time to kind of shed that, those guys, Lumber and Cousins and those type of players, Lawrence, Stenlund, like they serve their purpose, but that's not going to win you another cup.
Again, you're not going to overpay.
Yeah, you kind of have to, even if it's like $1 million, right? Lumber, it wasn't like a huge amount, but
it adds up, bro.
But he was like league minimum for a while. I think that's why they extended Gadjevich and Balinskis like last year, halfway through the year.
Even Mahura, who at the time stuck around, now he left.
Yeah, now he's gone. Yeah, so there's a little bit of change, but like top 6 remains unchanged. Maybe top 9 really, with Tarasenko's really the only one.
And Mackey in some ways has more upside at this point in the career, and I think Mackey. We'll get into some of the pieces, but I think our team is top 9 is intact, and when you look at our potential 4th line, actually has more talent than it has in the past.
Yeah, and you have Maurice as a coach, so it kind of makes sense to just keep it going. I'm not sure how it's gonna work during the season. Like I'm sure some guys are gonna be tired from the grind them out system that he might have, but we'll see how that goes. I was kind of hoping for more of a youth, for some of the 2 or 3 of the kids to come up and kind of like fill out those lines, that top 9. But you can always pivot. You can always, trade. Yeah. Some of the guys, Verhaeghe and Bennett, can be traded. Even a guy like Rodriguez can be traded. You don't have to keep those guys if you don't want. But yeah, man, where do you see the team going now? And yeah, it's I don't know how it was for you. I know you were in Spain, so it's kind of weird.
No, I followed it. I followed everything. I love the way Cito's approaching this. I really think that he made all the right moves. I even called a couple of them with Bachwitz and all that. I think the main thing for me is he understands that this year, most likely than not, is a transition. Because after back-to-back finals and winning a cup, you're likely not going to get back to the finals. History says that. So what do you need? What do you need in that year? So what you need in that year is he's locked up a core beyond Kachuk and Barkov with Reinhardt, Forsling, and likely one of Verhaeghe. I mean, there's rumors that Verhaeghe was a 60-year deal that might happen, extension, or Bennett. I don't think he's going to be able to keep both, and that's okay. He locked up Lundell long-term, which I loved, because right now, $5 million seems like an overpay. I'm going to tell you right now, 2 years from now, that's going to seem like a cheap-ass contract for a second liner, and he's destined to be our second liner. He was excellent. His line was excellent against the Rangers, best line. And in the finals, he had 5 assists. He had 5 points. He may have led the Panthers in points in the finals. He was excellent 2 ways. He looked physical. He looked strong. He looked smart, and just key goals at key times. Kid's only 22, man, and he has over 50 games of playoff experience by now. So to me, he's seeing all of this ahead of time, and he's allowing a little bit of space for Mackey to come in the right spot. Mackey should not be a top 6 player to start. He's not there yet. So him to play now with an experienced young line with Lusty and Lundell who can defend, play on the natural side, which is his right side, the right wing, where he fits on the line. He's not going to be able to play right wing in the top 6. He would have to shift to the left because you have Reinhardt and you have Kachuk. You're not moving those guys. Why not have him go against lesser competition for the first year as a rookie in the NHL level? And just for context with Mackey, not just that he's a first line guy, that even last year he broke into the team training camp. He looked great. People love him. He had a great AHL year. He led the Checkers in points, in goals. Over 82 games, he would have put up 70 points. He was a plus player. He played on the top line. He scored overtime goals, game-winning goals. He got stronger as the season went on. He looked a lot stronger, a lot faster, a lot more confident. I watched the whole season of the AHL last year. I told you I paid it. I watched the whole season to follow the kids. Mackey's ready. Mackey's an NHLer. He's got the skating. He's got the shot. He's got to develop. He's still 21 coming into the season. So you're going to give him a couple of years to get better 2 ways. He's got some defensive deficiencies. But to me, to play on that third line is the exact same spot you want him right now for a year. And then you can move him up if you lose for Hagee or whatever. And you can move him up if there are injuries because he's got the skill to play in the top 6. He could play in the top 6 and not, lose in the regular season. You don't lose a lot there. And you're not expecting the guy to win you the cup this year. You just hopefully get into the playoffs, get into a couple rounds, give him some experience, and then you can see. And then the same with Justin Serdev, man. I think Serdev might win a spot in the 4th line. I think he's a guy who was in the first line center in the AHL. He has over 100 games down there, plus player, over 60 points, was put in every situation, was trusted as the top guy, top PK unit. The dude is excellent 2 ways. He's a grinder. He fights on the boards. He's an excellent. He's like Luosterainen with better skating and better hands. And to me, he's NHL ready. And he also broke into the team last year. Just again, there was no space because the Panthers were trying to win the cup. It was not the right time. So Marie said it. The kids got to play. They got to go to the AHL, develop, marinate. They just did that. I think they're ready to break in. They're the last year of the ELC. You got to see what they got. I think both of them are going to break the team. And they both have the skill to play on the third line. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about the Bobquist brothers. I think Jesper Bobquist is excellent defensively and also has a lot of offensive upside. He can skate. He can play center, play wing. He's only 25. I liked him with the Bruins. He stood out to me when I watched him in that series, actually. So I'm glad we got him. And then his brother. I was telling you, I'm just going to stop there to throw it back to you. But Moser, who just signed with Tampa for over $3 million for 2 years, and Liljegren making $3 million. Bobquist got better possession metrics and more points in a similar amount of games than those guys have in the NHL level. Bobquist's main issue is health and defense because he's not a big guy, but he's only 23. He's younger than those guys I just mentioned. Like, he's got upside. He can drive the play. He can play the power play. He's a top 10 pick. He's like Montour 2.0, younger. I actually think he's going to play on the second pairing with Mikula, who can protect him a bit. And then you can play Schmidt with Kulikov as your third pair where he actually belongs. That's a pretty deep NHL ready. And then you have Balinskis or Mike Benning, who's another rookie who played the entire NHL season last year on every position, was excellent, play with offensive guy, defensive guys on the right, on the left, played all 72 games, even though he's a small guy, never got injured, 9 goals, plus player in the AHL. The Checkers were not good defensively last year, and he was a plus player. He might be ready to compete for that 6-7 spot. So yeah, we're not as deep as last year, but this young talent that's coming in that nobody's ever heard of outside of Panthers fans probably, they're actually pretty talented. And in some ways, we have more depth on the 4th line with Nosek and Bobquist and Jasordev, Greer, those guys than we had. So yeah, he set it up so that we keep the core, run it back kind of with a really good top 9. And then the last thing I'll say is, remember, Verhaeghe, Bennett, Ekblad, all contract years. They're going to bowl out. Luosterainen and Blondell had down offensive years last season. They could bounce back offensively. Kachuk had a down year offensively. I think they're going to play looser. I think it's going to be more fun to watch. I think they're going to play more offensively. They're going to have an injection of youth and talent on the team. The Buckwitz brothers are going to try to prove themselves. They're going to prove it deals, 1-year deals. Nate Schmidt came for $800,000. He just wants to win. I think that he's also allowing time for the prospects. There's a lot more prospects that we have coming up to come in. You know, Devine, Sauching, the guys, Vilmanis, Davies going to the AHL this year. Those guys are going to be fighting for spots in the next 2 years. So he's built it in a great way, bro. I love everything he did. And maybe the second thing I'll say after you talk is a little bit about the prospects, but he's got the core, and then you've got money coming off the books with Bob and Ekblad after this year. Bob is probably going after the season, and Ekblad definitely probably not coming back unless he takes a huge risk.
Yeah, I think Bob is gonna play. He's gonna stay the whole year with Knight backing him up, and if something doesn't work out, you have Drieger.
You can move in the last year of his contract. Somebody will take him.
Yeah. I think they'll keep Bob. Bob is in really, really, really good shape. He's still one of the best goalies east to west in the league, and yeah, he gets beat. But as long as you have a good defensive system, and Maurice knows what to do with Bob, and
you want to give Knight more games, so I think Bob's going to play fewer games.
Yeah, one night to play the whole year as a backup. Maybe share. You can share. Do 40 and 42 or whatever. So I think that's going to stay the same. I do think that Ekblad, it's probably gone after this year. I don't think he's going to want to take a pay cut. Why would he? Unless he wants to, be a Panther for life. It's only him and Barkov left now.
I don't think Cito wants to keep him.
Yeah,
there's already rumors that he was going to get traded.
Yeah, he's injury prone. He's he can be a liability.
You need that money. You need that money for the kids. You got young players coming up, bro, and he's not going to do well in his 30s. He's already way slower.
Yeah, and I think that's why, he can kind of play with Verhaeghe and Bennett. I think that was more of something that was kind of being talked with the agents maybe about what they're looking for, what they're willing to offer, and it kind of stay there. That way, Cedar knows how to approach the cap, not just this coming season, but the next, and on and on. I think the Lundell extension is excellent. Forsling extension is excellent. Of course, we talked about that during the season when it happened. The Mikkola signing, the cheap extension on Dostorinen, who you can also trade if you feel like Serdev needs to break in.
The guys you keep and extend, man. They're still young and they're not going to cost you that much money.
Yeah, and I agree. Adam Boqvist, I think, is going to play with Mikkola. It makes sense, right? He just slots in for Montour, almost on the same role. Ekblad is still going to lead, QB the power play. I don't think that's going to change. And
yeah, I think Boqvist and Forsling are going to give Ekblad run for the money. I don't know.
Yeah, Forsling is a guy you definitely want to try out in that PP1 because he really hasn't been there, and he has a good shot. He's a good skater, so even if you turn the puck over, he can skate back, prevent those shorthanded goals that we gave up so much in the playoffs. I think the only concern for me would be you're kind of running it back with the same, like I mentioned earlier, grind them out type of system that not only can wear some of the guys down, but it kind of, focuses on defense above all, team defense, not just the defenders. So it just depends on how hungry the guys are to kind of get back in there. I do think that once the Panthers get to the playoffs, they'll be a tough team to beat because they're just built for the playoffs. That it's like the Bruins, right? Like it's just gonna be tough to play them no matter what. So I do think that they might get far again. I don't know if they'll get to the finals. It depends on what the rest of the East does. I'm not scared of the Rangers. I'm not scared of the Hurricanes. Bruins got maybe a little better, and they have Swayman, even though they're still working out a deal and all that good stuff. But that would be my only concern, to kind of run it back the same. Although if you really look at the season last year, the team was pretty good, man. We had a lot of good.
And listen, the teams that run it back, they're teams that stay consistent. Pittsburgh stayed consistent for a while.
Right.
The Bruins, they competed. Even Carolina, now that the cap makes them have to lose people, but you can.
The Lightning,
you do need to keep it. You need to keep an identity, and I think certain guys have earned the right to be part of that identity. And I think they're pros, and I think they'll compete. And you don't have to play the grinding style all season long. I think this is a year to let the guys get some of their numbers back. I think this is a year to develop the kids, to see what the Boqvist brothers have, whether you want to keep them, that could really work out. You have enough of an injection of, you have new leadership. You have big guys like Nosek and Greer and Gadjevich. Those guys can bang, the fourth line, protect your smaller guys. But I don't know. I feel like we have. I'm curious to see how Balinskis does if he gets a chance. I'm curious to see Adam Buckwitz, and I've always liked him. I told you when we did that one random video about the 5 players in the league that like nobody cares about. He was one of mine.
Yeah,
and I've liked him when I watched him in Columbus. Now Columbus is in development, right? And Chicago played him when he was 19, way sooner than he should have. He's never been protected. He's been injured. The teams have been stunk. I want to see a guy with his talent, with 200 games under his belt already, which is the minimum you need as a defenseman to really feel like a pro. Now he's at the right proper stage at that age with that experience, with surrounded by better talent and a better system and a winning system with Maurice. What can this guy give you when he's really properly coached? He's got the talent. He's got the skating. He's got the passing. I really want to see him in our system. I think he can bring some youth injection of talent. And I say the same about Mackey and Sordev, who now, after a year in the AHL, I think are going to look a lot stronger, a lot faster, a lot more aware of the NHL game and the speed of the game. And who knows, some of these guys could take off. I mean, the talent's there, man. These guys are leaders. Sordev was a captain in juniors, and I'm high on Sordev. I just watching him in the AHL, he's a natural leader. He could be a team captain in the NHL. He's never going to be probably a first liner, but he could be a middle six guy. And, he could be like a Kyle Okposo type of a guy. Like, he's just that really, like, he's got some talent. Okposo scored a bunch of 20-goal seasons, and so I think Sordev could be that kind of guy. I think Mackey could be a 20 to 30-goal scorer every season, and then some of the other younger guys. And, Mike Banning, I'm still high on. I really respect what he did in the NHL, being such a small guy, really, really battling, being a plus player, playing all games and putting up 9 goals and having to play with guys like Lucas Carlson, who only plays offense, and he was trusted to be the defensive defenseman. Like, I think Cito they've really invested in really developing these players, man. And you can either trade them or play them, but we got a lot of talent coming up that people don't realize that it's going to either shine or become an asset. And then the last thing I'll say about the draft too, with the Panthers, like, I love his Linus Eriksson pick. The second.
Oh yeah, the center. Yeah.
This dude is a steal. Much like Grayson Sargent is probably going to end up being a steal for the Panthers. And Jack Devine, definitely a steal. I love that he's going to marinate for another year. He's only 20, man.
Devine's going to be a scorer.
He's going to be a star in the NHL. And then you got Josh Davies and Sanders Manis, who have shown tremendous growth last year in juniors, and I think can go to the AHL and show what they got. I think those guys are talented and tough guys. But Linus Ekman, if you look into his draft, like, stock, and this dude, the only reason he was not a higher pick is that it's a two-way player. He doesn't put up the huge numbers that you need to get picked in the first round in the top. But this guy was a captain of Swedish under-18 juniors team, World Juniors team. He was a captain. He was the center. He drives lines. All the conversation around the draft is he's a natural leader. He drives lines. He elevates the play of his players. He battles on the boards. He defends. He doesn't cheat. Sounds like Lundy. Sounds like Barkov. 6'1", so not a small guy. Can skate. Excellent skater. And I just think that when you look at everything that he brings to the table and how he plays, and in World Juniors, he put up 22 points in 22 games, and he was a plus 12 player against, all the team's best players in the world, his age range. I think that this is what Cedar knows how to do best. He's like, well, I don't have that top 10 pick, so I'm not going to get a flashes guy, but you know what? I'm going to get a Souching who has more skill than people realize and can play 2 ways, and the only reason he's not picked higher is because he doesn't cheat. Plays 2 ways, and he only puts up a certain amount of points versus the 100 points you see from the juniors. And the same with Linus, and the same with some of these. Sordev was also at one point a first-round talent, but doesn't cheat. He's the lead captain. So he just also gets character guys, man. These are guys that in the NHL, you need that character to develop, to play, to really show. And so I'm very high on Linus Eriksson. I think he's going to be a legit top 6 center.
Yeah, I think that they're really, really well in this draft. They got a couple centers, big guys. I think Cito
higher than they should have picked, which is a Cito specialty.
Yeah, Cito hasn't.
No, I'm sorry, lower than they should have picked. They were rated higher than he got them.
Yeah, and they traded with Toronto, right, to get Eriksson, right?
Yeah, because Eriksson was by some people rated in the 20s and 30s, and they got him at 58. Sauching was rated by a lot of people as a first round talent. You got him, I think, in the second round. Devine was a steal in seventh round. Davis was sixth round. Romanis was fifth round. Yeah, and these guys are putting up points in juniors, alongside first rounders.
A lot of these guys get the Celebrinis and the Bedard. Again, I'm not saying that those guys are not gonna be successful, but when's the last time one of these little flashy guys, it's gonna carry a team and win a cup? It doesn't work that way. You got to build a team. If you look at the examples with Chicago and Pittsburgh and then Tampa, and that it's about the last 14 years that's essentially been Tampa, Chicago, and Pittsburgh. If you look at those teams, there's not a ton of like flashy stuff there. There's just a lot of responsible play and good coaching and just not just talent, but goaltending, everything matters. So when you're drafting, you kind of have to start with the basics, man. And I think that's why like they'll talent overpay for Bob. And it was kind of a move to say, well, we drafted well, Barkov, Huberdeau, Ekblad, Trocheck, Bukestad, all these guys that were supposed to be really good. And it just didn't work out the way it was supposed to because of just bad coaching and mishandling of some of these guys. And Barkov is a prime example of that. He just needed to be coached a bit because he's a very smart guy. And like Reinhardt's super smart. Verhaeghe is clutch. I mean, he's how many game-winning goals he has? Like 16 or some crazy shit like that with the Panthers. Bennett is just a warrior. Like everybody's scared of him, even though he's like super skinny. It's just everything came together. And with the kids coming up, I do think that's going to make a difference. And Cito's going to go from there. I think this is kind of the maybe transition year. Not really. You're running it back. You're trying to win again, but it might end up being a transition year depending on how the team looks and how some of those guys are playing. But your point is a good one on the contract years for Verhaeghe and Bennett. They're definitely going to try to ball out. And Ekblad is going to want to get paid like a top defenseman in the league. And he is. He's a top four.
Well, you saw what Reinhardt put up on a contract year. So, I think.
Exactly. Yeah.
To be honest, I think for me, I'll say this. What I want for the Panthers this season, and maybe wrap up there, I think I just wanted to say I'm so excited that Cito is like really doing this with a big strategy. You can see the master plan. If you're really paying attention from the development of the prospects, the timing, Sauching going back to juniors, Devon going back, they're not ready. And we don't have the space for them, but we're going to need them, and then you have competition. You have all these kids going to the AHL who had great juniors years, and they have, Mike Benning maybe needs to marinate. Maybe you bring Bockquist in, you have Balinskis. Maybe he spends another year in the AHL. Maybe he comes year after or becomes an asset that you trade. You don't rush into having Sordev in the top six or Mack in the top six. Like, that is the way you build really a team and develop guys. And then you have Lundy and all these guys to be excited about going forward. And between the contract years, the youth, the Bockquist brothers trying to prove themselves. I like Thomas Nosek. I like Greer. I like the depth, the toughness in the fourth line. Nosek can do some of that Stenlund stuff on the PK. Sordev can play on the PK. Lusty can continue to be the top part of the top PK unit. I just think that, these young guys are going to become more veteran now. And again, I would love to see Kachuk have a more offensive year. I would love to see these guys let loose a bit more on offense, have fun. I'm okay with that. I think they can still win enough games to get into the playoffs. I think that they if they can get through a first round against the Leafs or Lightning, that would be ideal. And then maybe lose in the second round in a 6-game series, 7-game series. That would be a successful season for me to let the kids develop. And then the year after, you have a lot of money coming off. You can trade Bob for the last year. You can let Ekblad go. Even the Keith Yandel buyout comes off the books this season. You have 20 mils in cap space. Bring a high-end defenseman and a good forward, and then let the kids play. Let the kids compete for the spot. And then all of a sudden, you have a younger, more talented team. You bring a really talented defenseman to replace Montour. Maybe you keep Adam Brockquist if he works out. And all of a sudden, you have a deeper team and more talented team. Maybe Knight is the goalie. Maybe somebody else, but I'm excited about the window. I think we're approaching it the right way, and I think I'm excited to see some of the injection of the younger guys, more talent. I don't want it to be a grinding year every year. You know what I'm saying? I want it to be also a fun year. We've earned the right to be the least for a year, where you just kind of have fun and maybe get through a round.
Yeah, and if they're like missing the playoffs or whatever, they're gonna step on it. And
Oh, and that's the other thing. If we're having a down year at the deadline, everybody getting traded. Like either Venner or Higgy, Ebla's going to get traded, Bob might get traded. You can get excited over the assets that come back, and quite frankly, then you get the kids more playing time.
Yeah,
to see them play. So
we'll wrap it up there. We'll keep it going on a weekly basis or as much as we can. With some, there's not much to talk about until
we should do previews of other teams. I know that a lot of people out there have said, we should look at like around the league and try to do some previews going through next season. Maybe some rankings about early playoff predictions.
Yeah, some teams have made some moves up. New Jersey got a little bit better, and there's some teams out there that are, well, obviously Nashville.
I want to talk about the Capitals, man. I want to talk about the Capitals, what they did. People sleeping on it.
Yeah, the Capitals.
Mad respect to what the Capitals did, bro.
Yeah. It's weird because you would think, oh no, they're just they're kind of transition, but no, they're kind of building something.
Penguins should do, and Dubas is not doing. So
yeah, the Penguins are gonna whatever. They're gonna be again. Yeah, they're gonna be the same team again. To me, like there's no way to fix that. But we'll get into that more in depth in the coming weeks. And then one last stat that I saw today for the Panthers, a lot of people might know. They were tied in first place with the Jets for the least amount of goals against, 198 for the season. And Reinhardt was the highest shooting percentage in the league at 24 point something. Some of the guys on that list, kind of weird. Dakota Joshua was there, second place. And just a couple of names that you wouldn't expect to be there. But actually, you can expect Reinhardt to take a step back.
Go to the slot, bro. Go to the slot.
But yeah, man, like those, yeah. It's very defined for those guys, and they know how to work it. So yeah, we'll leave you guys with that, and we'll catch you all next time. Peace.